Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The skyline stretched across a horizon of towers, their glass facades glittering like broken dreams under a polluted sky. The streets below teemed with the bustle of humanity, struggling to survive in a world where the wealthy had long since checked out. Not physically, of course, their bodies were still present, but their minds, their essence had gone somewhere else, to a place where death, disease, and aging held no sway. Digital paradise. L.A. Mason stood in front of the dusty window of his crumbling apartment and stared out at the streets below. A cigarette hanging from his lips, its ember a tiny glow of rebellion in the gloom. The air smelled of burnt rubber and desperation, the usual bouquet of the lower district. He could hear the distant hum of drone traffic carrying goods and information to those who still lived in the physical world, the forgotten masses. Above them, in invisible towers of silicon and light, the elite lived eternally in their virtual utopia. He crushed the cigarette into the ashtray, his jaw tight. The memory of his father haunted him, Lucas Mason, the man who had once railed against the very thing he had embraced at the end. The father who had left Eli behind alone in a world he didn't recognize, chasing the promise of immortality in digital paradise, the ultimate betrayal. Now it was up to Eli to uncover the truth. He had made a promise to himself no one else should follow that path without knowing the cost. Eli sat down at his cluttered desk, a hodgepodge of monitors flickering with code. His fingers danced across the keyboard, pulling up the encrypted backdoor he had spent years working on. Cracking the firewall of digital paradise had been no small feat, but Eli was nothing if not resourceful. He hadn't been one of the best hackers in the world for nothing. He had found a way in, but now came the hard part.
Once you're in, there's no guarantee I'll come back.
He thought of his father again, the strong man who had raised him, a man of principle who had ultimately succumbed to the very temptation he'd fought against. Eli couldn't forgive him for that, but maybe, just maybe if he could expose the truth, it would make sense of the madness. Maybe he could save others. He put on the Neuralink helmet, adjusted the sensors, and let out a long breath. His pulse quickened as he initiated the upload sequence, his consciousness drifting into the synthetic expanse of code. The world around him faded, replaced by a sudden blinding light. Then silent. The transition was seamless, smoother than Eli had expected. One moment, he was in his dingy apartment. The next, he was standing in a place that felt too perfect to be real digital paradise. The air was crisp, the sky a deep, endless blue, and beneath his feet, the grass felt soft and warm, like something out of a childhood dream. He took a step forward, his senses hyper-aware. Every detail vivid. The towering villas in the distance, the sparkling streams, the golden sunlight that bathed everything in a soft glow. It was a masterful illusion. Here, the elite had crafted a world free from the pain of the real. Here, death was a forgotten relic of the past. He hated it. Eli walked through the rolling fields, past serene lakes and sprawling estates that stretched across the landscape. The people he passed were calm, peaceful, their faces unlined, their smiles wide. They looked perfect, too perfect. He had studied the design of digital paradise for years, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of being inside it. Every bit of code, every strand of data was carefully constructed to mimic life, to give the illusion of existence beyond the physical. As he approached the central plaza, a towering statue of Julian Cross, the founder of Digital Paradise, loomed over him. Cross had been a visionary, a tech billionaire who had promised immortality through technology. He had delivered, and now the wealthy flocked to his creation, their consciousnesses uploaded, leaving behind their frail human shell. "Isn't he beautiful?" a voice asked from behind him. Ali turned, his heart skipping a beat. Standing before him was a woman, tall, elegant, with dark hair that cascaded over her shoulder. Her features were sharp, regal, and her eyes gleamed with a kind of knowing intelligence that made Eli's skin crawl. "Depends on your definition of beauty," Eli said, his voice steady, though his pulse raced. The woman smiled. "You're new here." It wasn't a question. "Just passing through," Ali replied, trying to sound casual, though he knew it was useless. Whoever this woman was, she wasn't some ordinary inhabitant. She was too aware, too precise. "Catherine," she said, extending a hand. "Ali didn't take it, Mason." Her smile widened. "Ali Mason, I know who you are." Eli's stomach tightened. He had been in digital paradise less than an hour, and already someone knew him. That wasn't a good sign. Catherine tilted her head, studying him like a predator sizing up its prey. You're not like the others. You're not here to stay. Just sightseeing, Ali said, forcing a grin. Catherine's smile faded. You've come to destroy it, haven't I, you, to expose the truth? Eli clenched his fists. Maybe. For a moment, they stood in silence, the air between them thick with tension. I can offer you something better, Catherine said, her voice softening. A place here with us. You don't have to fight, Ella. You can live forever free from pain, from suffering. You can have everything you've ever wanted. Ali shook his head. This place, ... That's a lie. It's not real. Catherine's eyes darkened. Reality is what we make it here. We've transcended the limitations of flesh. We've become something more, something less. Ali shot back. You read out free. You retrapped all of you. Catherine stepped closer, her voice a low whisper. You don't understand. You haven't seen what we've built. This is just the surface. There's so much more. Eli stared at her, his mind racing. He had expected resistance, but not like this, not an invitation. What's your play, Catherine? Why not just kick me out? Why try to recruit me? She smiled again, but it was colder this time because you were valuable.
You were one of the few who could actually make a difference. You were a threat, but also an opportunity.
Ali took a step back. I am not interested. Catherine's gaze hardened. You will be sooner or later. Everyone is. Before Eli could respond, the world around him began to shimmer, and he felt a sudden, disorienting pull like gravity shifting beneath his feet. Eli stumbled as the landscape around him dissolved into a mass of swirling code. His head spun, his vision blurred, and he reached out, trying to grasp something solid, but there was nothing, just an endless void of numbers and light. For a moment he thought he might lose himself, his consciousness unraveling, sucked into the digital abyss. But then, with a jolt, he regained his footing, the world snapping back into focus. He was no longer in the idyllic fields of digital paradise. Instead, he stood in a cold, sterile room, the walls lined with servers and blinking light. This was the real heart of the system, the place where the truth lay buried beneath layers of code. Eli let out a shaky breath, his mind still reeling from the encounter with Catherine. He had to stay focused. He was close, now closer than he'd ever been. He approached one of the central servers, his fingers flying across the virtual interface, digging deeper into the system. The security here was tighter, more sophisticated. But Eli was prepared. He had spent years honing his skills, and now he was ready. As he worked, the code began to unravel before him, revealing the hidden layers beneath the surface. What he found sent a chill down his spine. Digital paradise wasn't just a virtual world for the elite to escape to. It was something far more sinister. The consciousnesses of those who had uploaded themselves weren't just living in a digital utopia. They were being used. Their minds, their thoughts, their very essence were being harvested, fed into the system to maintain its operation. The longer they stayed, the more they lost themselves, until they became little more than cogs in the machine, their individuality erased. It was a prison, not a paradise. Eli's heart raced as he realized the full scope of what he had uncovered. This wasn't just about exposing the truth anymore. This was about saving lives, real lives, trapped in a digital hell. But before he could act, a sharp, metallic voice cut through the air. Unauthorized access detected. Ali froze. Then alarms began to blare. Eli's pulse quickened as the alarms blared. The sterile room, once cold and quiet, now buzzed with hostile energy. He swore under his breath, his fingers flying over the interface in a desperate attempt to bypass the security lockouts that were rapidly closing in. The code he'd cracked moments ago was already stitching itself back together, sealing off the layers of secrets he'd uncovered. Every second mattered now. He glanced up at the blinking lights overhead, the room bathed in a red glow. No doubt Catherine was already aware of his breach. She wouldn't let him walk out of here unchallenged. With a deep breath, Ella triggered the virus. He prepared the digital grenade that would fragment digital paradise from within, revealing its truth to every consciousness trapped inside. But it wasn't instantaneous. The virus needed time to spread, and that was time Eli might not have. A loud crash sounded behind him. Eli spun around just in time to see a squad of enforcers, virtual constructs designed to guard the system barreling toward him. Their forms were humanoid but distorted, their movements unnaturally fast, their metallic skin reflecting the red glow of the alarm. Eli had read about them, but seeing them up close made his skin crawl. They were digital paradise's enforcers, mindless tools programmed to eliminate threats like him. Ellie dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the swipe of a gleaming arm as one of the enforcers lunged at him. His body wasn't real here, but the consequences of being killed here in digital paradise were. If they caught him, his consciousness would be erased, just like the others who had tried to rebel. He wouldn't be going back to his physical body. He'd become just another casualty of a system designed to protect itself at all costs. He scrambled across the room, his mind racing for a solution. The virus was working. He could feel the subtle tremors in the system as it began to tear at the seams, but it wasn't fast enough. He couldn't fight these enforcers head on. They were too strong. He had to outthink them. Without hesitation, Ali launched himself toward the nearest terminal, his fingers once again dancing across the key. He tapped into the enforcer's command protocols, trying to find a loophole, anything that could buy him time. His breath came in ragged gasps as he worked, the sounds of the enforcers closing in. Come on, he muttered through clenched teeth. At the last second, he found a vulnerability buried deep within the enforcer's programming, a relic of an earlier version of the system. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Eli injected a command, override, and the enforcers froze, their bodies locking in place like statues. Eli exhaled a shaky breath, but there was no time to celebrate. He knew it wouldn't hold for long. He turned back to the central server, his hands moving faster. No, the virus was spreading, but the system was fighting back. Code rippled across the interface, struggling to repair itself even as the virus dug deeper. He had to speed it up, to push it past the point of no return. A sudden flash of light filled the room, and Elisa's heart sank. Catherine appeared before him, her expression cold and severe, her form shimmering with digital perfection. She looked more like a goddess than a person here, her presence commanding and terrifying in equal measure. Eli, she said, her voice calm despite the chaos unfolding around them. Eli's jaw tightened. I am not interested in being part of your digital prison. This isn't a prison, Catherine replied, her eyes narrowing. It's a salvation. You're condemning thousands of people to death by doing this. You know that, don't. Condemning. Eli shot back, his anger flaring. Ellie, you're the one who's enslaving them. They don't even realize they were being harvested for their minds. You returning them into cogs in your damn machine. They chose this, Catherine said, stepping closer. No one was forced. They wanted to escape the decay and suffering of the real world. Who are you to take that away from them? They didn't know what they were choosing. Eli countered terror. I didn't know the price. Catherine's gaze hardened, her expression growing colder by the second. It doesn't matter anymore. You can stop this. Digital paradise is beyond your reach. Even if you destroy this part of the system, it will rebuild. You can win. Elias' heart pounded in his chest, but he did flinch. Tarya, maybe not, but I can give them a choice, a real one. He hit the final command on the terminal, unleashing the virus in full. The lights flickered, and for a moment, the entire room seemed to warp and bend as the system buckled under the strain. Catherine's eyes flashed with fury as she realized what he had done. Fool, she hissed. She'd done to doom them all. Eli turned to face her fully, his fists clenched. Prime number. I've given them the truth. What they do with it is up to them. The room shook violently, the server sparking as the virus ripped through the system's core. Eli could feel it. Digital paradise was coming apart. The perfect world the elite had built for themselves was unraveling, the hidden machinery of control exposed for all to see. Catherine raised a hand, her form flickering as she tried to stabilize the environment. I want to let you... But she never finished the sentence. With a deafening crack, the system collapsed, and Eli felt himself being pulled out of the virtual world. His consciousness ripped from digital paradise as the code disintegrated around him. He tumbled through the void, his mind spinning, his thoughts fragmented. For a brief moment, he feared he'd have lost everything that the collapse had taken him to. But then, with a sharp jolt, he was back in his body, gasping for breath in the dim light of his apartment. His heart raced, sweat dripping down his face as he tore the Neuralink helmet off his head and staggered to his feet. The room around him was still quiet, the only sound the steady hum of his outdated equipment. But he knew that somewhere in the digital expanse of digital paradise, everything had changed. He rushed to the nearest terminal, his fingers trembling as he checked the system status. The virus had done its job. Digital paradise was still intact. But the truth was out. Thousands of consciousnesses had been freed from the hidden control mechanism. They now knew what had been done to them, and they had a choice to stay or leave. For the first time in years, Eli felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't over yet, but it was a start. A small blinking icon caught his attention on the terminal. A message hesitantly. Eli opened it. "We're still here." It was signed simply Anna. Eli smiled. The rogues had survived. They were still fighting. As he shut down the system, Eli glanced out the window at the decaying city below. The world was still broken, still riddled with the same problems that had driven people to digital paradise in the first place. But now there was a chance for people to confront reality instead of running from it. He wasn't sure what would happen next. Maybe Catherine was right, and digital paradise would rebuild, stronger and more fortified than ever. But as long as people had the choice, the freedom to decide for themselves, Ollie would keep fighting. He took a deep breath and stepped away from the terminal, feeling the weight of his father's legacy lift from his shoulder. For the first time in a long while, Eli felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be.